Hey everyone, welcome inside T-Mobile Arena. I'm Megan Olivi alongside the great Brett Okamoto and the legendary Teddy Atlas. Guys, thank you so much for being here. All right, they're already packing up everything here at T-Mobile, but we've got to talk about this main event. Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal. Teddy, when you looked at this one pre-fight, were your expectations that it would look like that?
No, because obviously I knew, like everybody knew, that Covington was a big favorite, 3-1 or somewhere abouts, for a reason. He was the better fighter, the better rounded fighter, the more dimensional fighter all around. We understood that. And we understood for the underdog, I believe, to win, that he had to be able to control geography that made sense for him. The outside, keep that space where he kept Covington from getting to his strong suit, to his legs, to the inside, putting his hands on him and getting him to the mat. That we knew that he couldn't contest him there on the mat, but he could survive. So we understood that he had great survivability, escapability, if you want, abilities. But we were hoping him, if you picked a dog, we were hoping that he wouldn't have to use them quite that much for a couple of reasons. One, because he'd be losing, and two, because it would use up his tank. And the other guy's got 3 tanks. He doesn't have 1 tank. That would be Covington. But for the fight to really be competitive, not only did Masvidal have to control the outside and be able to be predominant with the striking, keeping that space, winning that, geography battle, but he would have to be able to land right hands consistently. He would have to be able to set traps, catch Covington looking to shoot. Fight almost a perfect fight. The big difference here for me was how good Covington was striking. That was the big difference. I'm not saying I didn't understand. You guys understand better because it's your sport. But I understood that he can strike. But he outstruck Masvidal. He outjabbed him. He had a great repertoire of punches, used the uppercut. He landed. I mean, he was creative in the striking area and consistent in the striking area. That was the fly in the ointment for me, that I didn't expect that. And if he was going to be that good there, then Masvidal was going to have no chance because he had to win that battle in the striking. And we thought that he had a good chance of winning that battle. In the end, he didn't.
Yeah, to me, it was kind of the fight that I was expecting. And if you weren't expecting this type of fight, I think that's only because you're sleeping on Colby Covington a little bit. I think that we're all we give Colby his due to an extent, but maybe even when you're giving Colby his due, you're not doing it enough because this guy has only lost to Kamaru Usman, and he fought him very, very closely both times. We have Kamaru Usman, and I say we almost collectively as a sport, have him as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. So that's the only guy that Colby Covington is losing to, the guy that we say is the best in the sport. I think that he had some matchup some things in his favor on this one. I think, honestly, the biggest thing that Jorge had going for him in this fight was the psychology that he used to be Colby's bigger brother, and he's also that star. He's that guy. He's the one who sucks all the energy into a lot of people I talked to about this fight said, well, Colby should win because stylistically, but, man, we want Jorge to win. It felt like you were going into that situation, and from a psychological standpoint, I think that could matter. I mean, we talked about it before the fight, Megan, that Jorge made pay-per-view points in this fight. Jorge made a lot more money than Colby did on this fight. Colby beat him, and I thought did a better job of selling the fight leading up to it. So I think that there was a lot of pressure on Colby's shoulders that, hey, I should beat this guy, and if I beat this guy, then I can start to get these things that I'm not getting yet that he is getting. But that does create pressure, and of course you're also just dealing with a dangerous individual in Jorge Masvidal. So I think Colby should get his due on this one. I think he made a smart post-fight call out. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that. But you got to be impressed with Colby Covington start to finish on the entire week.
You absolutely do. And I mean, he dominated and controlled a lot of that fight. There was a moment in the 4th round where Jorge seemed to catch him. But in the post-fight speeches, Jorge said, I just came out flat. I had no wrestling. I was flat. I was flat. And that happens. You hear fighters say that. I mean, I've heard that in my own household before. Hey, I just didn't feel like myself. But when you are in that scenario and round 1 you feel flat, or round 2 you feel flat, I mean, what's the adjustment that not only needs to be made physically, but also mentally then?
I'll keep it quick. I don't think he was flat. I think he's, you know, maybe in the moment he's being hard on himself, and he's also maybe still doesn't want to give Colby a whole lot of credit. I mean, we know that we talked all week about how these guys don't like each other, so you want to turn around and say, hey, that guy's really good. He did a great job. No, you want to take some of that responsibility on your own shoulders potentially. I didn't think he was flat. I thought that he defended his share of takedowns. I think he could have done a little bit better of distance management. But then again, what we're talking about is things that Jorge could have done. No, Colby is that good. Colby is good. Colby smothers you. Colby puts you against the fence. It's hard to hit a guy with great shots when your back is up against the fence. It's hard to do that. And if you take one split second and lose your focus, then you're on your back and you can't get back up again. Right. It's just hard to beat Colby Covington. So I didn't think that Jorge looked flat at all. In fact, I think he fought a pretty decent fight. He did almost knock him out in the 4th round. He was looking for those big opportunities. Let's just talk about how good Colby Covington is. He is that good. He's tough to beat.
I think that he was made to feel flat by the guy in front of him.
Right.
I mean, you know, I think to your point, he probably is being honest. If you put a polygraph on him, I don't think the lines would go crazy. I think they would stay steady because he believed he was flat. But the reason he was flat was Covington made him flat.
Yeah.
That was it. And to emphasize, and I think it should be emphasized, even though you did a great job with it, I came away with this saying, wow, Covington is really good. And then I finished by saying, man, Usman is great. I mean, really, he handled this guy twice. I know it was competitive and all that stuff, but he was the boss. There was one winner. And in the first one, he stopped him, broke his jaw, stopped him in the 5th round. But, wow, this guy is so good. And the other guy, you know. And one other point. There was a guy named Mike Tyson who used to say everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, everybody's going to feel right and then feel flat when the other guy goes and fights his fight and has all the answers and dominates you on the mat and doesn't allow you to be in the geography you need to have a chance. That's going to make you flat. So, you know, going in, he didn't plan on being flat. He might have felt great in the locker room. And I'm not saying he's a liar. He might have felt great. But like Mike Tyson said, when I hit you, your plan kind of goes
right out the window.
And you become flat.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. You know, Brett, you mentioned the fact that we heard Colby call out Dustin Poirier, his former training partner and teammate, and a lot of people are excited about that. But as Teddy just said, you know, he's fought Kamaru twice. Yes, they were close, but that's obviously he wants to get back to the belt. Kamaru kind of left that door open. Yesterday we did a Q&A, and he said, hey, if Colby has a dominant win, I could see myself facing him for a 3rd time down the road. What makes the most sense for Colby Covington?
It just depends on which way you look at it, right? I think that there's 2 very different ways of looking at it because Colby is in that sort of situation that you don't want to find yourself in, that you have lost to the champ twice. And even though both fights were good, they weren't all that long ago, you know? So now he's in this position of what is he going to do? Is he going to face the other top contenders? That makes sense. From a competitive standpoint, that makes sense. Colby Covington is right behind Kamaru Usman, so he keep having him fight top 5 guys. From a business standpoint, that doesn't always make sense because then he could potentially take out guys that could challenge for the belt for Kamaru Usman, and then it's just sort of what motivates you at that point. You're just fighting to keep your place in line basically the entire time. So the other route you could go is the fun fights, the marketable fights, the sellable fights. That's what Colby Covington wants right now. It does not surprise me that that's what he wants. If I had a choice between just fighting the toughest contenders and not getting paid championship money and not getting a belt around my waist, then I would also want the fun fights. I would want the fights that make me a pay-per-view draw. That is Dustin Poirier. Will that fight happen? It just depends how much the UFC wants it.
Yeah.
One thing.
Yeah.
Covington keeps getting better. That might be the thing to leave this whole thing with, which is kind of he keeps getting better. Kind of like the guy in my sport, Canelo. You know, I know he's the big golden goose and all that stuff, but he keeps getting better. Covington's getting better. And the only problem is this guy named Usman.
Right. It's a big problem for him.
It's a problem for the division. Teddy, if you are to give advice to Jorge Masvidal, what would you say to him?
Oh, he's 37 years old. I think he knows what time it is. What was that Bob Dylan song that said, I know which way the wind's blowing? You know, he's a smart guy. He's been a very smart guy. And he's made good money, thank God. I mean, big money. You made a good point. He's made more money than, you know, because he became that star guy, you know, and it started with the first Usman fight where he had Dana over a barrel a little bit, where one guy pulled out and, you know, he did what he should do. He got the most money he could for himself and his family. I don't think he has to retire, but I think he's at that point where he's thinking about it because he's made the thing that allows you to get close to the exit. Money. you know, and everyone wants to get close to the exit. It's a tough business, you know. So I think that it's something that he's going to have to sit down with his family. He's going to think about it. It's his choice, obviously, if he wants to go. And if he wants to go on, one last thing, it's only going to be in top fights. He doesn't want to do it, you know, in the other fights anymore.
Yep.
It's going to only be in top fights. And he's had enough tough fights, and he's made enough money. He's going to have to think about it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, gentlemen, as always, I appreciate your perspective so much on this. It was a fun night here at UFC 272 in Las Vegas, but we're going to go home. It's been a long day for us. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. They're turning the lights out on us, so that's our cue to go. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.